How's it going, YouTube? CatWolf9000 here, back with a different type of video today. Today I want to do sort of a discussion type video, talking about the overall state of Overwatch from the perspective of me, a more casual player, who even though I haven't been there every day of the game, I have been there pretty much since day one when the game launched. So you're just going to be getting my opinions in this video. So first thing I'm going to start on is pretty much the overall state of, well, just competitive in general. Competitive is kind of in a weird state from what I've seen. I'm not like the best player of the game. I'm more down so at the gold level. That's pretty much where I am. The best I could probably get to is probably low mid plat at best. But just my opinions on the overall state of how competitive is that people are toxic. Maybe not in the higher ranks like I don't know, like master, grandmasters and stuff like that. I assume people are less toxic up there. But just around like gold, just mid, low gold, high gold, anywhere around that range, people are toxic. You play any character you want, everyone's complaining about the team comp. You play any character that they want, they're complaining that you're bad at the character. Like, there's no really any winning. So me personally, I'm someone who, when I do want to play tank, I want to play, well, I was playing Orisa for a while, but whenever I start playing Orisa, everyone starts counter pick, like they pull out his Zarya, and now suddenly my whole team's complaining at me, and instead of them trying to help me switch to someone who could counter Zarya, it's just I have to switch, I have to protect the team. So playing tank is just overall not a fun thing to do in Overwatch. Something else I want to talk about is roles in general. Let's just say tank, DPS, support, etc. Another thing is that people will pick certain roles and then try to do other roles. For example, there will be a DPS in the front line thinking they're the tank and taking all the bullets and then dying. Or there'll be a support also up there trying to do that. Or sometimes you'll see a tank in the back line because they're scared of the enemy team or don't want to get hurt. Things like that. I will say people will queue up for certain roles, maybe for like a challenge or something, or they'll have to go queue for all. And then they'll end up like they don't want to play that role. They'll play it another way, like DPS tanks or DPS healers, or maybe just feeding DPSs that run in head first. Stuff like that. It's like a minor inconvenience. It's not really a serious thing that you have to deal with a lot, but sometimes people will just not want to play the roles they're in, and that can be a little frustrating sometimes when you're in a team and you're trying to win the game and you see people just running off doing their own thing. I will say, like, yeah, we do lack a sense of unity in the community as a whole. Another thing I think Overwatch 2 should do is incentivize playing different roles. And I don't mean like 100 extra experience on the battle pass per game. Maybe if you play like a tank a certain amount of times, you get like maybe a double experience for that game or something. Or maybe something like if you play DPS like 10 games in a row, they're like, hey, if you play tank, you get something for playing tank or playing support or something. So that people are like, oh, I'll just queue for DPS and sit here for 10 minutes and just accept that because I don't want to play the other roles. Maybe incentivize other roles a little more. Like, because nobody really wants to play tank anymore. I know playing tank is just getting shot, and if your supports aren't good or you're just being a little reckless, you're just not having fun. So, I mean, maybe something like that. A little extra experience, or maybe you get like a special like name card or a avatar for playing certain roles a certain amount of time so that people will play them more. Maybe they're just trying to collect them. Maybe they put out like a really cool like Reinhardt like avatar or something you can only get from playing tank for a certain amount of time. So then people will be queuing up for tank to get that. Maybe like even though it's only a temporary solution, maybe they could keep releasing like small things like that over time to more incentivize people doing that sort of thing. So like, hey, you play support, maybe you'll get a Mercy skin that's exclusive to people who play support a lot or something like that. Things like that. Like maybe you play a certain support, like specific character, you get a skin for them you unlock by playing them for a certain amount of time. And I know it's like people who've already played the game for a long time, they'll just maybe auto get those or something. I don't know, but maybe just to make it start from a certain time, like maybe season 15 they add something where you play support for like 10 games and bam, you got a new avatar for whatever support you're playing, etc. Things like that. Things that incentivize just diversity in the roles. So overall, tank is not a fun experience to play in competitive because everyone wants you to play whoever counters the other tank, and counterwatch isn't a thing that should be done, but it is a thing you need to do if you want to win sometimes, even if nobody likes it. Now moving on to, well, I'm going to talk about playing DPS in competitive. DPS overall, I will say, is a pretty chill role. People usually don't blame the DPS unless you have a lot less damage than everyone else. Pretty much, even if you have a negative KD, as long as they look at your damage and see it's high, they're going to think you're doing okay. So I would say DPS, even it's a role everyone wants to play because it's the role, I say, the lowest stress level. People don't usually get mad at the DPS as much unless you're really bad. Moving on to how supports are in competitive. Playing support is kind of hard sometimes in competitive because either everyone's really thankful or everyone hates you. Because say, for example, your tank is pushing the point and there's a Sombra, for example, in your backline. And by the way, no, I don't like Sombra. I don't think anyone really does. But back to the point at hand. Let's say you're being attacked in the backline and you're like, hey, somebody come back here and help me fight whoever's rushing our backline. And then they don't. And then they'll complain heal diff because you're over here 1v1ing a damage character when you're a support when you can't really out damage them. And then people don't really think about that. They just say, up, heal diff, you did bad in the backline. You should have just been better. So even playing support is not really the best experience right now in Overwatch. Now, another thing I want to talk about, aside from competitive, is just quick play in general. I've been playing quick play recently. I've been even joining team chats to just talk to people and get see how people are acting, see if people are positive or not. And overall, people are usually okay, but every other game or so, I might run into one toxic player where, for example, we had a tank where they were playing a Maga, and as a lot of people have probably seen with Maga, they see enemy, they say, I'm going to shoot them, and anyone behind me, you better be with me, or oh well. Because I had a Maga tank, and I had just met a random in the chat who was another support like me at the time, and our Maga kept running face first into a 1v5, and they complaining, come on team, where are you? When we were trying to keep up with him, and whenever we did run in, he'd usually already died because he jumped into the enemy backline. And other times when we're like marking behind us, it's like, hey, both of the team's DPSs are behind us. Maga turn around and stop trying to kill that support over there. And he's like, what? Where are you guys? Where's my healing? And I'm like, okay, Maga, you got to play. It's a team game. That's the main point of all of this, basically. Overwatch is a team game, and I think a lot of people see it as more like a single game with other people there, where they're like, I go for as many kills as I can get, and you help me do that and get some while you're doing that. Which is kind of how it is, now I think about it, but it's not exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be everyone helps everyone, not just you help yourself and other people help you. So yeah, that's the point of that whole conversation. Another thing I want to talk about is overall cheating. Even when you're playing on like console only, I've seen some cheaters before, people who randomly pull out aimbots. Like for example, one game I had where there was an Ashe who got pretty much only headshots, lined up shots before you came around the corner, things like that. And I'd say, like, if you try to report people, it doesn't seem like it really does anything. Even at one point, you're in a match, like, one team notices, another team notices, and someone will leave a message in the just game chat. It's like, hey, we should report this person. They're aimbotting. And people will agree. And I don't think anything ever happens to that person because people are still cheating in the game. That's kind of a big thing that's going on. I've even seen people doing it in quick play where there's nothing you lose by losing, but they still like, I want to win at all costs. And they turn on the aimbot and crank it up as we go. Like with Widowmakers, especially when you come around the corner, you've been shot immediately, or you see them snap to your head when they were aiming at someone else because they went behind cover for 1 second, and you're like, huh, that looked a little suspicious, but you don't want to be the person who's like, oh, they're cheating, and just think they're like, oh, you're just bad at the game, and then you have to actually think, are you bad at the game in that moment, or were they actually just aimbotting? So that's a hard thing to figure out just going through the game unless you like really go in and slow it down and see how the cursor moves towards your head. Because that's the only really way to tell unless you have like experience looking at cheaters, like someone like the YouTuber Flats, who I've watched for like a lot of my opinions and things I've learned about the game. When I watch him seeing cheaters, like you can see if you slow it down how cursors move, how they jiggle around your head, or they aim at you before you go around the corner, things like that. Like that's just stuff you kind of have to learn. But anywho, another thing I wanted to talk about going throughout this video is just overall, just people who don't know how to gauge their own skill level. Because people will say things like team diff, but I'm like, it's a 5v5 game, so if you're getting destroyed, I don't think it's a team diff, it might be a you diff, but I know a lot of people have trouble accepting they're bad at certain things. Me, myself, I play tank, and just going, as I've uploaded videos, I've seen in my comments before, people's like, oh, you were just hanging back at the point, you should move up to the choke point, and I'm like, oh, see, that's some constructive criticism, that's a good thing, I need to learn from that. When we have the objective, I should go like ahead, push a little bit with the team, kind of slow down the enemy team, stuff like that. Like that's things I'm trying to learn and try to improve on as I play the game. But a lot of people don't want to learn that. They'll say things like, hey, tank, what are you doing? Are you pushing the enemy team? I'm like, no, it's like, go to the choke point, kind of protect. That's something I'm trying to learn. That's something I want my tank to do sometimes now when I'm playing support and I'm just sitting on the point and I'm like, huh, the enemy team is now getting out here and flanking us because they have the ability to leave their spawn, find different routes to come in from the sides instead of if we cut them off doing that, and then that won't happen anymore. Things like that, that's stuff that people need to learn. but I know people don't really like to hear they need to learn things, which me included. Some of the comments I see in my videos of, hey, what are you doing playing that character that way? I'm like, my first reaction is always, well, who do you think you are? I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, but then I look back, I think about what they said, and I watch my gameplay, and I'm like, okay, I see what I did. I wasn't, like, per se, protecting my supports as a tank. Like, it's not my 100% job to do that. I'm supposed to contest the point, take damage, etc. But sometimes you do have to, like, turn around, protect your supports. Like, there's a DPS or someone like a push tank like Doomfist or Winston or Hamster that's in the backline. You need to sometimes turn around if there's nothing really in front of you and try and protect your backline instead of just saying things like, where are my heals? What's going on back there? Sometimes you do have to keep an eye out on the rest of your team because it is a team game. You gotta keep an eye on everyone, which I know is hard for a lot of people, me included, to do. Like keeping track of 4 other people besides you, and especially with 6v6 going to its experimental phases, it'll be a little harder for a lot of people to keep up with all the people, and so they'll start thinking things like, why am I alone fighting their whole team when it's just them getting 2v1 when the rest of the team is fighting the rest of the enemy team, things like that. I think people need to get a little bit more spatial awareness, but I'm not saying that in a way to like attack anyone I've played with before, because I know people will hear you say things like, oh, people need to get better at this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, you're not that good at it either, which means I don't have to change what I'm doing. But I'm like, I think people should try to change for the better, try to learn how to play the game in different ways, pick up new skills, things like that. Because I will say, overall, I think with Marvel Rivals coming out and Overwatch kind of being at a low point right now, I think if the Blizzard and whatever wants to have people come back to the game, they need to do things to like implement so that people will be more of a team. Because you'll get a lot of games where people will run off on their own and do things. And also, I think that there need to be more ways to, communicate with people. I know there's like team chat, but then you say someone's like, hey, tank, fall back. You're a little too deep in the enemy line. And they'll be like, no, just come up here and heal me. It's like, there's not really communications breakdown immediately. Now they're thinking, oh, my team's just not on my side, stuff like that. So overall, I mean, people will be people. You can't exactly really fix that, I guess. Even if like they were to, I don't know, patch in more ways to communicate with people. Or maybe like when you mark someone, maybe have a little icon appear somewhere on the screen instead of just hearing the noise. Like, hey, someone's over there. You got to turn around and look for where their pin is. Maybe something like that would help people like turn around and keep an eye on their surroundings. Because I know people get laser focused, me included. Like when you see maybe like a Mercy or something, a Mercy running around by herself and her whole team is behind you, but you're just running at the Mercy, holding down the shoot button. Like people like will get locked in like that. And sometimes like, what was I trying to say? I know, a character like Lifeweaver, I know a lot of people hate the pull, but sometimes the Lifeweaver pull does, when you're playing tank, a Lifeweaver pull out of a dangerous situation sometimes makes you stop and look around and realize, oh, I was in a dangerous situation. Thank you, Lifeweaver, for getting me out of there. Things like that. Sometimes you need to just take a step back and look at everything around you and figure stuff out as you go. Now, after that point with the whole team thing, another thing I want to talk about is the shop itself. Looking at the shop, being a more casual person, I don't put money into Overwatch. It's pretty much I grind for things and I either get them or I don't. And it's like I don't really get the battle pass unless I saved up coins from past seasons. I'm pretty much just free to play in Overwatch. So looking at the shop, I see the prices of skins and things and I think that's kind of high. I don't really want to get those. And I know that's a point for a lot of people. They're like, why are the skins so expensive? Or why is this character getting so many skins? But me personally, as a more casual person in the game, that's not something I'm really upset about. It's more something I look at and think that could be better, but it's not something that's over the top for me. Like more people who like every day on the game will complain about things like, why is Kiriko have so many skins? Why is Mercy? Stuff like that. Where are the skins for people like Venture or Ramatra? People with like less skins, stuff like that. But me, myself, it's like I would be happy if that lesser characters got skins, but I know that the more popular characters are going to get skins, so I've just come to accept that over time. Another thing I've heard about the shop system is that people are like, why couldn't we get loot boxes where you could get any skin we want randomly? I'm like, I don't want a random skin. I want to get the skin I want, even if sometimes I won't be able to get certain skins because of that. I mean, at least I have the option to get things I want. Like, for example, let's say I main someone like Reinhardt. I can just go to the character, look at a skin or emote or anything I want, sprays or something, and I can just, if I have coins, I can get it. It's much easier. Even though it encourages like, now that you have access to everything, you might want to buy more coins for more things, and people are like, oh, I'm incentivized to spend money. But the same thing happened with loot boxes, except it was random and you couldn't maybe get what you want. So yeah, stuff like that. Me personally, I did play some Overwatch 1, but I wasn't big enough to have any opinions on like changes between 1 and 2, like 6v6, 5v5. I played 1, but I don't even remember 6v6 because I played it like, it was one of those things where I didn't own the game, but like someone I know, family member, had the game and they let me play on their system. So I was like, okay, I'll experience Overwatch. I've heard about this game before, things like that. And then when 2 came out and I was like, oh, it's free and it's just here. I was like, I'll jump into that. I'll learn about the game, see what it's about, stuff like that. One of the last points I really want to talk to about in this video is single player. What do you do when you want to play single player in Overwatch? They're like, oh, here's this campaign that costs like $15. And people were like, oh, but where's the rest of it? And I'm like, I heard Blizzard's like doing stuff like they said they wanted to defocus on the single players, focus on the multiplayer. But from what I've seen, from when I started the game until now, the multiplayer is mostly the same. Like not too much has changed. We got maybe like we got that rework for Sombra somewhat recently. New tech is coming out, stuff like that. But me personally, sometimes I want a more single player thing I can do. Not like it has to be a story mode or anything, but maybe like a fun mode or something I could do. Maybe we should get something like let me think, something like a defense mission, but against AI, but not against like AI players, like with characters, like the robots. Like, I don't know if that's in the game. I haven't gone through every single player mode. That might be a thing in like the story, but it's not really a thing you can access unless you spend on the single player campaign as far as I know. And that's something I really want more of in the game. Or maybe just more ways to play with your friends that aren't like, that also give you the experience of Battle Pass. Like, you know, if you go into the arcade, play some custom modes or anything, you're not really getting Battle Pass experience. So it's like, why would I play these if I'm using my free time from like off of work or something, and I'm gonna play and I'm not gonna gain anything from it? And they should maybe make it so that you gain experience from other modes and things. Like, you play some side modes, maybe even a custom game or something. Maybe like have a lowered amount, of course, like not a full amount for like a full game, real game, but maybe you should be able to get experience from like side things you try out, so that it's more incentivized to play the game. Like if it's not just quick play comp, because that's the only thing that's gaining me anything. Like that's the only way I can get coins and stuff. Maybe they incentivize you playing other stuff. Like you make a custom game. Maybe it's like a map where it's like a parkour timer sort of thing. I don't know how the custom maps work in Overwatch. It's like, okay, you're playing through this. You play for a certain amount of time. You get a time. And it's like you get some experience. Not a lot. Maybe like a set amount for playing a custom mode, so that people will play them more. So it's not just the main game modes. And I'd say the last thing I want to talk about in this video today is just overall the community. Community's got some ups and downs. I've seen people complaining, people happy, etc. And I know that like with Marvel Rivals coming out, a huge chunk of the Overwatch community has shifted to that game, me included. I've also kind of shifted to playing that game some. I even have like some videos I haven't released yet that I'm currently editing of me playing the game, just with different roles and things. And in that game, I'm like, okay, these are characters I like, I'm having fun. And Overwatch, I would say, has not really had too much of that feeling for a while, just because we get a new character, maybe every 2 months or something. I don't know, I haven't timed it exactly, but it feels like maybe like every 2 seasons we might get a trailer for another character or something. And people will, like, it's been so long since the game has changed stuff that people aren't really hype anymore. So people aren't really happy about that sort of thing. So with Marvel Rivals out, it's all new, so everyone's happy. I think after the initial launch, it'll still be very popular, but some people will probably switch back to Overwatch. And when that happens, I hope that there's something to keep them there, because if not, then people might just switch over. And I don't think the game will die or anything, but I do know that queue times will be longer, and a lot of people will complain more about the game, which might eventually lead to the game shutting down or something. Maybe they'll do an Overwatch 3, I don't know. We'll see as time goes on. But that's all I really wanted to cover in this video, just my casual opinion of how Overwatch has affected me and like how I've seen it affect people around me. And I would say, if you like this type of video, let me know in the comments down below. Also leave a like and a subscribe down there to help me out, so I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs sometime, probably before the end of the year. I don't think I will hit it before the end of the month, but I'm hoping. So I'll see you on the next one, and thanks for watching.